Hey everybody, Pierre Paul here. I hope that you're doing okay with your families in this self-isolation thing that we're all experiencing. Wanted to give you a brief update. First of all, I don't know if you've had a chance to see that today, but the Bank of Canada cut its overnight lending rate by half a percentage point. So we're down to 0.25%, so 0.25% overnight lending rate. So that's near zero. Plus, they've announced that they're going to do some quantitative easing, basically buying back government bonds to put more liquidity into the marketplace. So, you know, I'm not fond of obviously running deficits, but our debt to GDP ratio in Canada is very low. So we do have the means. Our federal government has the means to come up with these financial relief packages or aid packages. But just to give you an idea, the UK is about 85.9% debt to GDP ratio, pretty higher, whereas Canada is 34%. France is at 98.4%, and Germany 61.9%. So we can afford these financial measures, just to reassure you. And the Bank of Canada said this morning, Stephen Poloz, that he will keep the overnight lending rate low for as long as it takes for Canada to enter into a recovery. The immediate impact, not yet on fixed rates, but it is expected that the prime rate will likely go down as well. So I certainly will personally welcome that relief if it happens on the fixed rates, because I got two properties which are renewing, the loan terms are renewing. I've got a few tools. I'm going to put the links below, but a couple of things. The biggest concern that we have as landlords is obviously, are we going to be able to pay our mortgages comes April? It's important to communicate with your tenants. This is a time to show that you are a good landlord, and hopefully your property manager, if you have one, is as good as mine. And they're sharing notices to tenants to reassure them. Everybody needs to be reassured. For example, my property manager issued notices to inform them that there's various payment options available, right? So electronic transfers and so on. Lease renewals can all be done via email. Virtual viewings, that's something that I took care of last week. We had videos shot of the vacant units that I had, and that's what we're putting up on our website, so to avoid to have contact with people. But my property manager also issued notices to tenants to let them know about the available programs, right? For example, deferring personal tax payments until after August 31st. They can also take advantage of the 6-month interest-free reprieve on student loan payments. A big program that came out just a couple days ago is obviously the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. So that's $2,000 per month, up to, I believe, 6 months as well. That's also available for self-employed people like myself. So that should alleviate some of it. But again, it's important to establish that rapport. Tenants are freaking out as well. There's going to have to be some assistance provided to landlords as well, because if our tenants don't pay, we can't pay our utilities and all of that. So some of these things are coming into place slowly. Of course, you remember that for landlords, this is what I mentioned a couple days ago. CMHC's programs whereby you can defer your mortgage payments up to 6 months. You've got to apply before June 30th. And I always mastermind with other landlords and all of that. This is something that you're probably going to have to wait a little bit before you start applying for the mortgage payment deferrals if your loan is insured CMHC. Why? Because you need to provide the lenders with some rent rolls, showing that either you have higher vacancies or that the tenants are not paying. You're going to have to provide with financial statements. So normally, most of us have these fairly ready. So you'll have to make a case. Now, it's important, and if you've taken, some of you watching have taken my my training program, you know how much emphasis I put on being organized have all your ducks lined up, your T's crossed and your I's dotted. That's the kind of approach you want to have when you approach lenders for getting mortgage payment deferrals. You have to be organized and professional. If you got lots of liquidity, don't bother applying. The government will look at that, and you're not going to be, it's not going to build your reputation. Only if you need the mortgage payment deferral should you ask for it. As for myself, I'll probably wait till later in probably June, to be honest with you. The reason being that you can have it for 6 months. So things are going to be pretty rock and roll, especially for me here in Alberta. I look calm, but you have to be calm because it's going to get pretty ugly in Alberta. I was just reading the price of Western Canadian Select. That's the price for the Alberta oil is down to about $5, which is the price of a latte at Starbucks. So things are not going to be pretty. So we've got to remain calm and we've got to find solutions. And I think that's kind of it. Very important to be proactive, to take advantage of that. So I'm going to put a bunch of links that I have here, including the federal website for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit that was announced just a couple of days ago. So that's after my last vlog post. You know, I'm going to grab my gratitude rock here. In terms of our self-isolation, my family and I, well, I repatriated one of my two older children, young adults in university. So my daughter's back. My son, who's in British Columbia, is going to be back on Tuesday. But be grateful. Be grateful for what you have. For my wife and I, we love having our kids back. So we have one of the two that are usually away. So there's, you know, there's the 4 of us and soon the 5 of us. We have great Netflix you know, evenings with popcorn and the whole works and chips. We're doing activities together. We're cooking together. That's what we got. I'm lucky here because I live on a beautiful acreage, very bright house. I mean, we have no neighbors or the neighbors are far away. And so it's a nice place to be in self-isolation. But look at the things that you can enjoy during this tough time. But we all have to do our share and stay at home as much as possible. So I'll keep updating you and I'll put these links below. If you got some questions, shoot them to me or leave them in the comment section. Somebody was asking me that they were surprised that multifamily properties were insured by a CMHC. You could get mortgage default insurance. Absolutely you can. I do have blog posts on the technical side which I'll continue to release, but believe you me, if you're a multifamily owner, you've got a great asset. It still is an asset in great demand, and there will be an after crisis point. Something that I wanted to share with you as well. Let me pull it up. I recently, somebody, my brother sent me a video of a consultant, a management consultant who's been in the business for 40 years. Some people pretend that business owners that they've seen crises like this before. There's no CEO, no entrepreneur, no business owner that's alive in 2010 that's ever seen a crisis of this magnitude. All right, nobody is alive because the last crisis of this magnitude was in 1918, the Spanish flu. So, you know, this is different. But I just summarized because the video was in French. What you need to do basically is keep in mind you need cash. Things are going to get very difficult for entrepreneurs. So my message now is I'm addressing this to entrepreneurs, business owners like myself. Your priority is to keep your cash as much possible. All right. But so what you got to do, and the analogy that was used in the video was put on your mask first, you know, as they tell you when you board a plane. So put on your mask first. That means keep your cash as much as possible wherever you can, all right, because you will need it in the short run. So again, this is coming from a consultant, business consultant and entrepreneur that has 40 years of experience in, you know, in business and coaching other entrepreneurs. So what you need to do wherever it's possible, and that's going to be a significant challenge, is maximize your income and minimize your expenses wherever you can. And again, if you've taken your training with me, you know that that's always what I recommend. I think I had a vlog post on that, maximizing or stabilizing the property. One of the definition of that is you know, maximizing income and reducing operating expenses. But in order to preserve your cash, and this is going to be, I'm going to leave it to you to interpret what I'm saying here right now. I'm not an accountant. But I do have a great accountant. As you know, I shared with you all the links to all the various federal programs that are available out there. But this particular consultant said for businesses like yours and mine, stop all payments as much as you can to vendors, except the essential ones. So for you to decide which are the vendors that provide services to you that you can continue to pay. So really, you don't spend any money unless you get a ROI, a return on investment, within the next 30 days. So it has to be a short-term ROI. So what you need to do right now, which is what I've been doing, except for the banks yet, because as I said, we're going to wait to see how the arrears are going to take place, because comes April 1st next week, for sure, we're going to have a lot of tenants being unable to pay. And that's something else actually that I'll mention to you, some of the communications that went out from my property manager to the tenants. They're not going to issue late notices to the tenants, because everybody understands that we're in an uncertain situation. But as much as possible, contact your creditors. Credit card, like I said, I did that myself already. I contacted my credit cards to get a 6-month payment deferral. That's been done. I know I can do the same for the mortgages, so I'll probably do the same. If you've got a car loan, I know that I saw some ads from Ford about the same thing. So you got to be proactive. The point here is being proactive wherever you can. But again, so contact your creditors and get payment deferrals. Fire employees you don't need in the short term if you need to. Of course, you got to make sure that the appropriate legislation applies. Don't pay vacation pay. Collect receivables wherever you can. That may be also difficult. And the other advice that this consultant was giving is sell unnecessary assets such as equipment or inventory if you can, but only for cash sales. Don't do sales on credit, all right? Another thing that he was recommending is that prepare for the worst case scenarios as if your business has to shut down for 2 to 3 months. So have contingency in place. Basically, he was using the analogy of a carp, which during a drought buries itself in the mud to lower its metabolism, all right? Your energy in this case is your cash flow, your cash. So again, take this with a grain of salt, but adapt these concepts to your business, however it is structured. What I continue to do for myself is consult with my accountant, who's very responsive. For example, the Canada Emergency Program, the CERB as they call it, Canada Emergency Response Benefit Program, I asked my accountant, does it apply to me? It does, so glad to know. But again, and this is not an accounting advice, but if you're going to pay yourself some dividends like us business owners do, then you may not be entitled to the CERB, to the Canada Emergency Response Plan, that $2,000 a month that you could potentially be entitled to. So what else? I'm just looking at, so I talked about that. That's it. In Ontario, I watched a great webinar. So remember, this is the time when it's important to watch stuff like my vlog to the extent possible, or other vlogs. And I was on a webinar a few days ago with Derek Lobo. Derek is in the GTA area. So one of the things that they were saying, which would not apply to me in Alberta, so you got to check the legislation in your area. But for example, in Ontario, you could the last month of rent, if some of your tenants have a tough time paying your April rent, maybe you can use the last month of rent as the April payment, okay? That's not possible in Alberta because that's money in trust. We call it, in Alberta, it's a security deposit. It's not a last month of rent. But these are things like that that you want to look at. And again, I know that my property manager will not be issuing arrears notices if people don't pay right on the 1st of April, but they're asking for tenants right now as we speak, before April 1st. So my property manager is also being proactive. Who are the tenants that are expecting to have a challenge in paying their April rent? Because it's going to trickle down. If the tenants don't pay their rent, we can't pay our mortgages, we can't pay the vendors, we can't pay utilities. And I know, and there's some nasty stuff going on in the tenant world. My property manager sent me pictures of notices that some tenants are advocating other tenants not to pay their rent. There's like vandalism, again, spray painting on the buildings, telling the tenants not to pay their April rent. So, hopefully the government is going to step in. There's talks about perhaps paying a rent subsidy directly to the landlords anyways, but you got to be in the now. So that's all I got for you guys. Be well. I'll do my best. It's very humble effort on my part to help you out. Something else that my property manager issued is, again, they're being proactive in communicating with the tenants, and of course what to do in terms of social distancing and all of that. What are the guidelines to wash your hands, the distance between people, and all of that. So the point is, regardless of where you're at, you got to be proactive with your tenants, with your lenders, and trying to take action to mitigate what's coming our way. I hope you don't feel this is alarmist or anything like that, but the situation is serious. So from my family to yours, I wish you well, and we'll continue to be in touch. Again, if you're a multifamily owner, don't despair. Again, we're the envy. This asset class is the envy. Other than perhaps the grocery stores these days and the pharmacy that, continue to be essential and they're doing well. Apartment buildings still is a great asset, to hold. And the thing to remember is, the people that will succeed in this crisis will be the people that will have succeeded in adapting and protecting their cash. And again, I'll refer back to the Scary Times Success Manual, right? Every big crisis is always followed by a tremendous time for opportunities. So there'll be a time to buy apartment buildings as well. Perhaps some of the landlords that are not going to make it through or something like that. Or if you're sitting on cash with low interest rates. So again, go through the manual, and what opportunities will there be? But you got to start planning for the after crisis when these opportunities come. So thank you guys for watching. I'll be in touch. I have a bunch of vlog posts on the technical stuff about multifamily. I keep wanting to do a Facebook Live on actual teaching, but I got my stuff to deal as well. And one of the things that I'm doing, by the way, is creating a war room, because I'm going to have to negotiate with lenders. This is all coming. So I'm almost paperless. I will be after today, because I cleaned up my desk. And that's something I'll tell you how I do that, actually, because being paperless is great. So everything's on the cloud with my bookkeeper and accountant. But I cleaned up my office, going to be super neat, so that I call that my war room. So that's one of the also benefits of having a little bit more time. So I wish you well, and I'll be talking to you very soon. Take care. Cheers.